Hello, everybody. My name is Joshua Lewis. I am a professor in the mathematics department, and I am very excited to talk to you about reflection. Now, reflection is something that I use in my online classes, and I've found it to be incredibly effective. I've really enjoyed this assignment in that I get to almost feel, you know, vindicated that what I'm doing is actually a wonderful practice with plenty of research to back it up. And so what I'd like to do is invite you into this practice, tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from, why I think it's important, and then tell you what reflection is, uh, and what are some forms that it could take, and maybe let you think about how you might use it in your own courses. One of my favorite authors currently is an English professor from Baylor University named Alan Jacobs. He's written a loose trilogy of books. And the first one in his trilogy, How to Think, has this quote early on: to think independently of other human beings is impossible. And if it were possible, it would be undesirable. Thinking is necessarily, thoroughly, and wonderfully social. Everything you think is a response to what someone else has thought and said. My students are always taken aback when I look at them early on, typically day one, and tell them that I really don't want them to walk away from my class having learned to think for themselves. I think that cliche is thrown around a lot. Instead, I want them to learn to think like me. Now, I say that for somewhat of a shock value, but really underneath there is a thread of confidence that instills in students, because we don't think in a vacuum, and we don't learn in a vacuum. And while I want them to have tools to be able to think, really thinking for ourselves at the end of the day, I agree with Alan Jacobs here, is not possible. And so, how do we get students to learn, and how do we get them to integrate the ideas that we're teaching them, be it any class, uh, in light of all the things that they bring to the table? And how do we honor the time that takes? Well, I think that's where reflection comes in. And so I want to, before I get into what the definition of reflection is, what is meant by reflection, I would really like you to take a moment and just sort of take your own inventory. I have a little activity here for you. What is your impression of reflection, and what types of reflection do you do or have done in your own learning? So I'm going to have you go ahead and do this real quick, and then we will continue.